a global account manager from LTI. They're right across the street in the boat building on the 3rd floor. I'm on the 12th floor, so we're practically neighbors. And I'm going to turn it over to them to talk about a deep dive in the talent crunch. Then we're going to take about a 20-minute break where you can top off your glasses. You can network with the panelists, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about DE&I strategies in recruiting top talent. And one of the things I learned today from Lorraine is that each of the panelists are going to answer 1 or 2 questions, and then they want to hear from all of you. They want you to ask questions and provide some best practices that maybe you've seen or you've heard. Because I think that really hearing from a collective voice is the only way that we're going to be able to advance this conversation further. So, Lorraine, take it away.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion. So we're going to be talking about the deep dive on the talent crunch. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Lorraine D'Souza. As Jessica said, I work for LTI. I'm the Global Account Manager. I'm also part of the LTI Women's in Technology program. And I'm pleased to announce our very knowledgeable panel, as you're going to learn tonight. To my left, I have Dave Turner, I have Jennifer Wilson, and I have John Wilson. So I'd like them to take a moment and introduce each of themselves.
Sure. All right. So I can try the link. Sorry.
Try mine.
We will start. So. All right. Yes, it works. So David Turner. I've been with the Hartford for about 17 years, going through different roles in technology and innovation, particularly strategy linked to technology. And then most recently, I lead the tech and data team for the IoT division, working with a couple of my coworkers here on the side. It's just really a privilege. The Hartford's a great place. The team's been really great to be part of. I'm excited to be part of the panel.
Hi there, I'm Jennifer Wilson. I'm with Hub International. We are one of the top 10 insurance brokers in the world and the largest privately held insurance broker. I'd like to start by thanking Stacy and InsurTech Hartford for the opportunity to speak tonight. The topic that we're speaking about is something I'm really passionate about, so I'm grateful for the opportunity. My role at Hub is I'm the cyber practice leader of the East region, and what that means is I oversee the cyber placement, insurance policy placement, and the cyber claims for our East clients.
Hi everyone, my name is John Wilson. I am the academic director of our soon-to-be launched master's program in FinTech and InsurTech at the University of Connecticut. I am a faculty member in our Operations Information Management department, where I teach a variety of courses in advanced analytics. I've been there for about 10 years. When I'm not teaching and when I'm not building master's programs, I am a data scientist, consulting data scientist with Limbra, where I'm involved in a new initiative they have that deals with this very issue. It's called the People Imperative, and Limbra is a trade association that I'm sure some of you are familiar with, is examining what companies are doing and what some of the pain points are and what some of the potential solutions are. So it kind of dovetails very nicely with what we're doing here today.
All right, well, as Jessica said, I'm going to ask the panelists a few questions, and then I know most of the faces in this room, so I'm going to open it up to questions. I trust all your questions should be good.
Is there social distancing?
I'm not sure. I can't talk all this way. All right, so let's get started. As we all know, that our industry is facing a talent gap and a crunch. So what that means is that there's a gap between supply, demand, and the skill set of our labor. So this is caused by many factors. You know, it could be voluntary unplanned turnover, pent-up departure, open positions, time to hire, and it just keeps increasing. So Dave, can I start with you?
Sure.
Okay, so many companies across the industry, I'm sure Hartford's also experiencing the same thing, or no exception, are feeling the talent crunch. From an insurer's perspective, where is the talent crunch creating the most challenge?
So I would say in terms of talent, it's probably first helpful to break it down into how we look for new talent and then maybe to swing it back to the challenges we see. So I would say, we look at talent across maybe 3 dimensions, at least within our team around innovation. The first is your behaviors, right? So how is someone's behaviors coming into the space? The second is really the skills that complement those behaviors. And then the third is kind of how those behaviors and skills are cemented by experiences that help them to understand the world. And sort of breaking that down a little bit, in terms of behaviors, the first thing obviously is ethics, and someone who leads by their ethical and moral base, someone who manages with integrity. You probably all have heard the famous Warren Buffett quote, you know, when you're hiring, look for intelligence, look for energy, and look for integrity. And if you don't have the third, don't bother with the first two. That kind of rings very true, I think, in our world, particularly in insurance. You know, we are both a regulated industry, but we're an industry that really manages with people's trust. And so I kind of look for that first, and then speaking from innovation, you know, we really look for people who are creative, who are natural born problem solvers, and are doers, right? They kind of wake up to get something done for the day, and they want to have something that they've accomplished. Looking at the skills side, we feel a crunch, especially around data roles, especially around capabilities in data science and in data engineering. So I like your master's program and the things you're working on. We need lots of that. We certainly feel a crunch there, and there's been a lot of turnover in those kind of areas, and there's a high demand in the market. And then in terms of experiences, it's a big plus if someone understands the insurance industry, right? They understand the data that comes with it, they understand why, they understand how it fits, how it kind of the puzzle pieces fit together. And so, if you can get all three, I think about that as kind of your dream candidate. If you can get the first two, you've got a great candidate. If you get the first one, you've got a seed bed that is perfect for growth that you can cultivate over time. So I think in terms of the crunch, we feel it in certain ways, especially around the tech and data space. But in terms of opportunity, I also see that you can kind of cultivate that talent from the right behaviors and from the right mindset.
Absolutely. Do you guys want to add anything? Do you want me to ask your question? Yeah. Good. So Jennifer, we just talked about at dinner, you're in cyber insurance, and it's such an interesting topic as we just spoke about a few minutes ago. But it's also one that's especially challenging by the talent crunch. So what are you seeing in the marketplace? Like, how are you feeling this in your industry?
That's a great question, and it's really a fascinating story of what we've seen in the cyber insurance space. So before I answer, I just want to take you back a bit just to help frame my answer. So for those of us who have been working in the insurance space pre-pandemic, we got in this space that for decades long, it was a soft market. So underwriters were writing cyber policies with just a simple application. I work on the broker side, and on the broker side, we were not investing in cyber claims advocates because there wasn't the need. We had cyber placement specialists, and they didn't have network security vernacular. They were just writing the policies, and they knew the policy form, and that's all they needed to know. Other insurers who were placing, say, property or GL coverage, they were throwing cyber in because it was so cheap, because the claims just weren't there. So property insurers were saying, okay, here's your property quote. Hey, by the way, we threw in a little cyber for you too. We did it on GL. They did it on the management liability policy. It was like the Oprah, you've got a car, everyone's got a car. Now everyone has cyber, property has cyber, like everybody gets cyber thrown in at no cost or very minimal cost. And that created an issue where brokers who weren't well versed in this didn't understand the difference between the throw-in cyber, which I call the fake cyber, versus a standalone cyber policy. So they were selling that like fake cyber left and right. And then the pandemic came, and instantly everybody was working remotely, and that offered a wealth of opportunity for the hackers out there to get into these home computers that didn't have proper security protocols in place. And suddenly ransomware claims shot through the roof, and nobody was prepared. I mean, nobody. The insurance companies didn't have the cyber claim staff to handle the onslaught of claims. The brokers couldn't even keep up with the calls of clients having a claim and don't know what to do. The underwriters were trying to figure out how to right size their books of business because suddenly they were completely upside down. So what did they do? They suddenly started talking about network security controls, and now it wasn't just the one application to get a cyber policy. Now it was, here's your application, you also need a ransomware supplemental, you have to institute MFA. We're all like, MFA? What the heck's MFA, right? But I bet every single one, well, you guys are all techies, so you all know what MFA is, but you know, a lot of us, me included, we were like, what? And now you can't find anyone on the street who hasn't heard of MFA, and now it's EDR, and clients are like, what's that? And we're like, how do you not know what that is? You can't get a policy without EDR. So now, like, everybody's well-versed in cyber, whereas 4 years ago, nobody knew any of these terms. So what has that created? It's created an enormous opportunity for people who are looking for career growth, career change, salary increase, because everybody's looking for cyber talent, because we're all still trying to catch up with the hackers. So the insurance company's looking for underwriters, they're looking for adjusters, brokers are looking for people to sell the policies, to write the policies, to negotiate the coverage. They're looking for claims people, they're looking for loss control, they're looking for people who can talk about the network security. No one had that on staff, so now we all need this. And there just wasn't that training prior because it was such a soft market. No one had to know any of the stuff, now we do. And it's on the tip of the tongue of every CFO that I speak to. So it's just all of the people who left the workforce based on, they call it the Great Resignation or the Great Reshuffle. Well, a lot of people left because they had that moment of stepping back, not having to continue on that hamster wheel, and some people had to step back because of childcare or family care responsibilities, and some people stepped back because they were like, what am I doing on this hamster wheel, and I'm not even getting paid worth my value. I'm just going to take a breath. Well, for all of those people who are taking a breath and don't know what their next step is, I just want to get the word out that cyber is a great place to get into the field. It's incredible the amount of opportunity out there from the insurance company, broker, breach counsel, law firms, IT forensics, IT restoration, everywhere connected to cyber, there is great opportunity. So just want to let you all know that it's a great field. There's enormous need and not enough talent.
All right, well, John, in your field, you have to see, some of this, or, I know you've talked to a bunch of companies, so, as the program director at UConn, what are the companies telling you are their biggest challenges? And, can you share some of those challenges that they're feeling or that they've told you about?
Yeah, it's not news to anybody. It's everybody's on the search for certainly tech talent, and when I hear tech talent, I usually don't hear IT talent in and of itself. It's analytics, data science, things of that nature. Obviously, distribution is a concern to some degree. Customer service is a big one, and Jennifer and I were talking earlier about back office. I haven't heard it as much as you have, but you're kind of in the niche market where maybe that hasn't been developed yet. And what's interesting is when I talk to the companies about what they're doing about it, and we heard some of this yesterday at CTIFS, about 10 years ago when big data became a thing and everybody wanted to do big data, whatever the hell that was, there was an acquisition spree, and it wasn't so much in the insurance space, it was very much in the tech space, where companies were buying other companies because of their data. And I think what's going to be happening here is companies will look to insurtechs and fintechs and look to buy them because of their talent pool. So if they have a product that aligns with what they do, that's great, but they're looking to buy the talent. And other companies are saying, well, we don't know if we want to go that way. What we want to do is you know, we have to go out and get the talent, and we're seeing remote work as a benefit, and we're able to widen our recruiting pool. Don't know if they realize that means everybody in their competition field will also widen their talent pool as well. Obviously, workers know they can work remote, and that widens their potential employers. And what I'm starting to get a sense of at a lot of these conferences and talking to a lot of these companies is what remote work has really done, and where it's causing a crunch in the US, is it's removed a substantial barrier to entry for startups and developing companies overseas. So companies, you think about places like London and Scotland and Munich and Berlin and Tel Aviv and Singapore and Hong Kong and India. You know, we used to always outsource some of our tech talent over there. They realize now they can outsource their tech talent over here, and they can pay them, and they can establish them and develop them. And so companies or individuals are, you know, that want to live the American dream, they can live in America but work for a company in India, or work for a company in China, or work for a company in Singapore. And that's a fundamental shift that wouldn't have happened had it not been for remote working. So I don't think there's enough recognition of exactly what the challenge is and who the competition is for the talent. I think once companies get their minds around that, then they're going to have to develop strategies. And I think one of the strategies that many of them will develop will be to say, let's look at the talent we do have, the ones that meet the integrity, intelligence, and what was the third, ethics? Did I have them right? I don't possess any of them, so that's important. It's basically, let's look at those and who has the aptitude for tech, and then what are our avenues to develop that internally. And let's see if we can incentivize those people that fit our cultural values that want to work for us, whether they be remote or remote or local, and try to develop that. So companies, and this is true for InsurTechs too, by the way. It's not just big carriers that are telling me this. InsurTechs are having the same battle. I think what InsurTechs can offer is the ability for young people to create, and I don't know if we have discussions about generations. We heard this again a lot yesterday. There's a strong desire for younger people entering the field to be able to create and have impact immediate, which lends itself well to InsurTechs, and InsurTechs and FinTechs realize that, and so they're tapping that same talent pool that you guys are trying to tap as carriers. So those are some of the things that I keep hearing. They're somewhat thematic.
And just as you were sharing, John, as you talk about InsurTechs maybe thinking about themselves as a talent pool as well as a service that they provide, I think it's really insightful. I think there's been conversations probably around all carriers about how do we go after different markets, or how do we get talent with the right sort of bent towards these things that might be in a captive group. I think as there's been more pressure on InsurTechs, it'll be interesting if they start advertising or thinking about themselves right now that way, right? So far, the pricing on InsurTechs has been pretty steep because they're sort of building a product, or they're trying to be all things to all people. So they've got this kind of high VC markup. But if that price tag starts changing, I think you could see a lot of that as being a great talent source for the industry at large.
I agree.
All right, well, you guys have identified the problem. Now we need solutions. So, I'm sure that all companies are looking for the solution. The talent problem has gotten a little bit out of hand. At LTI, we're trying to overcome all these issues also. So we started by looking at local. So we started looking at local universities. We started recruiting college graduates for entry-level positions. We've started doing the buddy referral system, which is also, that's been done. We're trying to revive that. We're looking at bringing women back into the workforce. We're doing what's called a yin-yang model, where part people can work from home, as we were talking about earlier, and then you can also work from the office. So Jennifer, we just talked about, at dinner we were talking about what the problem was. So you also at dinner named some solutions. So what are some of the things that you're seeing organizations are doing to help expand the talent pool? And more so, I know you have examples. So can you give us some examples of what you're seeing?
Yeah, sure. So for the first time ever, Hub has agreed to let us use recruiters to try to fill some of these spaces. So before it was just, word of mouth. It's a small industry. So we're using recruiters. We are promoting within, so we're promoting up and training staff, so we're looking internally. We are also looking to just hire people that might not necessarily have the placement experience, but have the claims, the cyber claims experience, and just train them on the other side of the house. Other things that the industry as a whole is doing is creating certification programs to, invest in training for the the talent pool that we have now, because right now there isn't a certification process. So that's another thing we're doing. Some quick examples of things that we're seeing. So, we've been trying to hire within my department for some time. We've just filled some positions, but some things that we saw are, people 2 years out of college coming in and demanding a salary of $300,000. It's ridiculous. So, we're passing on that. Then we had this other individual come in and we interviewed him. He was a great candidate, didn't quite have all the experience we were looking for, but had enough that we were interested. And at the conclusion of the interview, he said, okay, well, I'm interviewing with a lot of other companies and I'm asking for all offers to be, emailed to me no later than Friday at 3 o'clock. And he turned the entire interview process into an RFP. And
So what did you do?
we actually pulled strings and gave him the offer, and it was much higher than we had budgeted for the role, and he got a better offer. So it's just crazy right now. So, again, if anyone's looking to, make a career change, cyber insurance is a place to go. And you want to, my advice is right now is it's a great employee market. So ask for what you're looking for, and if it's flexibility, finally companies are recognizing the importance of flexibility, and there's such a talent issue that they're willing to be more open with, remote work or work-family balance, and ask for the salary that, will, make it an attractive move for you. Now's the time to do it.
Wow. Going about this the whole wrong way, I think. So Dave, we gotta guess for more money, I guess, or Jennifer's field. So at LTI, we're starting to focus more on employee engagement and skill development through leadership development programs and connecting women to other women through our technology program. What do you see? So what type of initiatives are you seeing the insurers are supporting to attract and develop talent into the industry?
So I can share two that I had the privilege to be a part of, and I think just looking at the two opportunities, they were some of the highlights of my whole career. So the first one is we partnered with the local university to sponsor their senior program. In their technology division, we basically joined together with the dean of one of the technology programs, and we created some senior projects. We assigned tech leads to be part of those projects with the seniors. We actually brought the seniors onto the Harvard campus. This is pre-pandemic, but we brought the seniors onto the Harvard campus. And we worked with them at the very least 1 day a week, but more. And the relationships that came out of it with some of the tech leads on my team and the students were outstanding. We met some really top talent, and it actually created a stronger retention for the Hartford team than you might expect. Actually, sort of a side benefit we didn't anticipate was that they felt so much reward from reinvesting in the community and being part of something just outside of their work that it created a lot of retention value as well. So that one was terrific. The one that we also did was part of a group in Women in Technology, and one of the things that we observed was that there was a real opportunity to get women into technical roles at the Hartford. And so we sort of stepped back and we said, well, where are we doing really well? And in operational roles and in kind of underwriting roles, There are a lot of women out there that love the Hartford, that know our customers really well, and they, for one reason or another, they actually may have had a passion or interest in technology, but they never had the chance to sort of take the leap and do something different in their careers. And you know, what we ended up doing was we sponsored this program, working with a boot camp. You may have heard of technical boot camps in the past. They basically are programs where you can spend 3 months as a full immersive, like 60 hours a week, hammering to learn a new technology, and you come out the other side as kind of an entry-level developer. And so he said, wouldn't it be fun if we did something like this? And so we did. We started up. We basically said, look, we have limited seats. You know, a classroom is space all can accommodate, but we're gonna let people apply. We're gonna let people come in and get interviewed to be part of this, and we're gonna sponsor you to be part of this boot camp. And the response was tremendous. And the women, and we opened it up to men as well, the women and men who were part of it were just outstanding people. The stories that they told through it were so moving. I mean, if I shared them, we'd all be teary-eyed. The way that they've sort of transformed what they did and reached lifelong aspirations. And it was incredibly rewarding. I think from a business perspective, it was also incredibly rewarding, not only for the kind of, again, retention and investment value, but also now here you have provided opportunities for people who, again, love your company, they love your products, they know your customers, and all they needed was a different tool on their tool belt to kind of swing that in a way. And if I kind of go back to how I started, you know, talking about behaviors, aptitude, it's complemented by skills, and then it's kind of solidified or cemented by your experiences. They already had experiences in insurance. They already had behaviors that we wanted. They're part of the family. All we had to do is equip them with skills, and they've flown. They've been tremendous assets in the technology space.
So when we were prepping the other day and we were having this conversation, I did a session at Limmer's Life Conference, and I had a panel with a company called, now I'm trying to blink, it's been a long day. They were Ultranauts. And Ultranauts, what Ultranauts does, it was 2 MIT guys that put the company together. And what they recognize is that a lot of tasks when you're dealing with data and trying to automate actuarial tables and 600 pages, you know, all these books, is very tedious. And what they discovered is that people who are on the autism spectrum are incredibly well suited for it. And so they created an environment where those people could thrive. They partnered with several different carriers. Some of you may be in the room. Big carriers, and they said, what are those tasks that you have that you're trying to automate or you're trying to integrate other systems to? And they launched them, launched these folks, and the companies continue to grow and grow. And the whole premise came about with the notion that our industry, as well as any others, are so archaic in the way we think about talent and think about experience. You have to have experience, and you have to have this education. And there are a lot of people out there that have the aptitude, and they said what we look for, in addition to your IEI, is aptitude. Do people have aptitude where we could skill them up to this and essentially change their life? So it was a very similar story. And I think, you know, when you think about, and when he talks about it, he says, when you see 10 years experience, what does that mean? That could mean that this was an employee that was just garbage for 10 years, that was in an organization that was so big that they were able to hide out, and you know everything was humming along successfully because the economy was good, and you know they're still a garbage employee. Whereas you could get somebody that's fresh out of school, or somebody that had a life event that caused them to rethink what they want to do. And you have those opportunities out there. The hotels and the restaurants and all these customer service touch point, that's where a big resignation occurred. And I travel a lot, way too much. But I'm seeing it everywhere I travel. I'm sure for those of you who travel, you see it as well, where restaurants, you know, hotels are full, but they're not really full. They're only as full as they can handle in terms of rooms and things like that. Those people have never had the opportunity to work from home. They've never had the opportunity to have a white-collar job. They, you know, probably came out of high school and they found themselves falling into this career that maybe some of them wanted, but I bet you most of them didn't. The question is as an industry, how do you reach out to these folks and say, hey, listen, we have an opportunity for you. It will give you better work-life balance. It'll give you way better hours. It'll give you the opportunity to learn a skill. and it will meet a need that we have. I would say the other thing too is when you're doing that, you're teaching very specific skills. My guess is that you have very specific projects and initiatives in mind. I think companies need to really take a look at their project portfolios and think about what do we really need here to get through the next 3 to 5, 6, 7 years. I will say this, I heard this the other day, you were talking about the $300,000 salaries, and there was a question yesterday that said, aren't we better off just holding out for a year because we can see layoffs happening and this is going to go away in a year? This is not going away in a year. I assure you, this is not, this is going to have a very, very long tail to it. Because again, with remote has been the game changer, and you have developing countries that now have access to this talent, and they want this talent. So it's not going to go away. The 300,000 and 400,000, we hear that, that's not going to go away. And companies just sort of need to think about how do we recalibrate our expectation while not pissing off our current staff who, you know, then compression and all that becomes an issue. I don't have the solution to that other than start with recalibrating your thinking in terms of experience, in terms of salary, in terms of the types of people we look for, and then you can develop a strategy around that. But until you get that mindset to shift, you're not going to shift your behavior.
Yeah, so that's really great insight. So I need some more insight from you. So when you were putting together the Masters in FinTech program, I know you probably spoke to many industry leaders to get the program together. So can you share with us some of those insights that you gained through those conversations as you were working on that?
Yeah.
You
So-
should talk about that, John.
Oh, hush. I can see thirsty people. You should be tending bar.
I don't think this was a prep question. I think this is a surprise question.
No, the question's fine. It's how I got to these conversations. So I speak at a lot of conferences, but most of the conversations happen as a result of going to all the InsurTech, FinTech conferences, walking around with a UConn shirt and having everybody saying, "What's UConn doing here?" And that sort of started it. And the reason that became a thing is because nobody else is doing what we're doing. There's a couple of schools that have since developed a program. NYU just announced that they're going to do a master's program. What most people are doing is they're doing this little spin-off in an MBA, and they're doing a certificate or concentration or something like that. And when I started talking to them about why we decided to take on a full master's program, for any of you who don't know academia, trying to build a master's program I don't recommend it. I've had a blast, but once is enough. It's really, really difficult to do because you got to really think about your audience and curriculum and your staffing and professors. And we're going to get, we have the talent crunch, particularly in cyber, trying to find professors. Professors in cyber are now in the $1 million a year category. So I'm not too concerned about your 300 grand. I'll take one of those guys.
I'll send them your way.
That's just where they are, which is crazy when you think about a professor that's not in the med school. But the insight we got is that senior leaders, they also recognize InsurTech is not going away, and their ability to adapt at scale and at speed is simply not going away. What their concern is how do we separate the wheat from the chaff? And I think what you're going to see, we're starting to see this now. Seed funding is drying up a little bit. Series A is drying up a little bit. B and C is still pretty available though, because I think those are the companies that have established themselves. And what I see from a strategic point is that those companies that are succeeding are sort of architecting the blueprint for what business is going to look like going forward. And now carriers have, they're back to that buy, borrow, or build, right? It's really buy, borrow, build, and then evaluate. And the evaluation piece is the part that they're struggling with because they don't actually have people that can look at innovation and look at what these InsurTechs are doing and really articulate how that might fit within their core competencies. And likewise, many of the FinTechs or the InsurTechs, their difficulty is they don't have people that know the business well enough to know who is our target audience. We got this great product, but we're not sure where to go with it. So I think events like InsurTech Hartford and ITC and all that, they're trying to bridge that gap. And what senior leaders are saying is, what is fitting within our strategy? How do we have to differentiate our strategy? and who do we get to do it? You know, and that brings us right back to the talent, and it brings us back to the, in my belief, that insurtechs will start to be acquired because of their talent, and that talent, you know, they're not going to say, does your talent have 10 years of experience? They're going to say, you guys managed to build this product with a bunch of kids fresh out of school, and our teams couldn't do it. And I think if that permeates through the culture and gets companies to rethink how they hire and how they evaluate talent, they're going to get a leg up on the companies that say, nope, we want 10 years experience and that's just it. But if you're buying one of these insurtechs, I'm pretty sure, knowing what many of these insurtechs look like from a profile standpoint, you're not getting 10 years of talent. And even if you are, it's, you know, they did 2 years here and 2 years here and 2 years here, and they build the next thing. You're getting a lot of creativity, you're getting a lot of aptitude, you're getting a bunch of hard work, and the IEI. So that's what I hear from leaders.
Is that what you heard?
Huh?
Great. All right, so before we go to questions,
I'm sorry.
we're almost there, we're almost there. Before we go, you three are very knowledgeable. So before we open this up, can you just leave us with one closing thought or one statement around the talent crunch, the gap, solutions? Just one, so Dave, I'll start with you.
Sure. So I guess the thing that stands out to me is, you know, number one is build your teams that you have. I like the comments around, you can build, you can borrow, you can buy. But I think there's, you know, the first step is build the team that you have, especially don't be afraid of cross-training and don't be afraid of investing. You know, I think the folks around when we did the Women in Technology program, there were a number of people that thought, no way could you take someone who was answering phones last week and in 3 months is going to be a junior developer working on a front end. And they were happily proven wrong. And so I would say, you know, invest in people, kind of look for that aptitude. And then the second part is really try to cultivate people who you see making waves around them, right? Stuff is getting done around them, they're leading work. You know, find those folks and cultivate them. They're gonna be they're the insurtech startup folks within your own ranks. You know, help them be something and help them make stuff happen, and then be really open to new ideas and don't judge people by kind of how many years experience they have or where they came from. Take them on the merit of what they bring today and how they're helping get stuff done. And I think it's just a really rewarding journey.
So I was just at a conference in Philadelphia, all within the cyber insurance space. And my takeaway was that 1, everybody is hiring, 2, everybody's moving, and nobody seems happy. So we are throwing stupid money out just to get talent. It's happening across the board. People in this space are being way overly paid just to get, companies are just overly paying people just to get the talent in. And my advice to those of you who are looking to make a change, don't just jump for the salary. Look for everything. Check off everything that's important to you. Don't forget to do your due diligence and look for the culture. Find out what the culture of that company is. Make sure you're getting the salary, you're getting the work-life balance, and make sure that you're going into a company that has a positive culture. You don't want to just jump for the money and wind up in a toxic place, because I'm seeing that a lot. We're also seeing, when you're talking about teams getting, companies acquiring other companies for the team, we're seeing for the first time in a very long time, cyber teams being poached entirely from one broker to another broker, and I haven't seen that in a decade. So that's happening too, and that speaks to the fact that when you have a good team working with you, people are not willing to leave just for a salary bump. They want to bring the team that they've collaborated with and that they work well with. So just do your due diligence and make sure you're moving for the right reasons and not just for money.
So I think it's sort of what Dave said, just maybe termed a little bit differently, is change your paradigm. Change your paradigm in how you consider talent, how you consider experience. We mentioned a lot about bringing women into the workforce, bringing people and upskilling them. Obviously, we're going to have a conversation on DEI with other folks that should be in the workforce that aren't, that you could bring in. And then one other one I want to bring up, and this is out of the people imperative. There has been and continues to be a reluctance to hire international talent because of the visa requirements. I have a theory, and we're thinking about how we're going to test this at LIMRA. Ask yourself your technical talent that's domestic, particularly in the analytics space, what's their turnover? Because if you get an international cert, we're STEM designated, so students get 3 years that they can come to work for you. You can continue to develop them, and then of course you have the green card lottery and the sponsorship and all that, and I recognize that that's a bit of a gamble. But you have to think about, would you be better off having one person there for 3 years that's talented, or 2 domestics there for 1.5 years each, and then having to retrain and things like that. So again, it's a paradigm shift. But think about what are creative ways that we can bring in talent, develop talent that doesn't necessarily fit with the model that we've had in terms of experience and things of that nature, the current criteria. Yes, sir.
I've got a solution to the talent crunch. Unfortunately, nobody talks about it. Even early this morning, down the street, is how about improving leadership? If you have good leadership, it'll attract talent. And nobody seems to talk about it. Nobody in town, nobody in the books either.
No, it makes perfect sense.
It does.
In my career, spans 30 years, I had one manager at IBM. He just had one phrase, and he just bowled me over with a phrase. He said, "Meetings are great, provided there are no chairs in the room." And what that told me was, he's not going to stand for bullshit, and IBM was known for having meetings. But that was his thinking. Is to take care of the people, take care of the jobs. We really find there should be leadership crunch first. Leaders, you will have talent, and they will get the job done.
Yeah, I guess what I would say to that. So number one, it's leadership that has to change the paradigm. So in that respect, we agree. But I know a lot of great organizations with great leadership that are still struggling with talent. So leadership, good leadership is about flexibility and adaptability, whether it's recognizing work-life balance and what COVID has done in terms of remote and things like that. I don't see Elon Musk as a great leader right now. I'm not sure what Jamie Dimon and these guys, for the life of me, can't understand what they're thinking given the climate. But they may, history will tell it. But there are other great organizations that do have the flexibility, that do have the no meetings or the Fridays off and all those sorts of things that people seem to like. And they're still losing talent too. And a lot of times it's because of money. And the money piece, I can probably go to work for 10 companies with great cultures right now, comfortably, and if I get pissed off at one, then I'll just go to the next one because I know who they are, and I think it's you don't want to get them hopping back and forth, but there's a lot of great leaders and a lot of great organizations that are facing the same talent crunch. It's a numbers game right now.
Yeah, and Jack Welch, who was praised when he was head of GE, now they are like condemning it.
Right.
What he did to the company.
Mad Men. Just watch Mad Men.
Yeah, thank you everybody so much. This has been a really important talent discussion, and we're looking forward. Oh, you have one more. Go
So
ahead.
Mark, we're gonna let you ask your questions
guys-
during
this is
our
the last-
20-minute networking
I
break.
thought this was going to be a dull and boring session that I was going to fall asleep. And I have so many issues, so many concerns that I don't know how to express myself.
Tell me your top one concern that's gonna keep you up tonight if you don't get it out right now.
Where is UConn? Where's the University of Hartford in this discussion? And they should be here.
Well, UConn is here.
I know that, but he's at the graduate level, Hillside Ventures. This is a great opportunity to bring the insurance community and the academia together.
I'm gonna say I agree with him, and actually you're stealing what I was about to say, because during this networking session, I want you to not network with the person you came with. I want you to network with somebody else in the room, because if you do so, you will learn that UConn School of Business is here, and during the prep, John told me this new narrative that he tells the students on how he changes the narrative with the students to make them think working in insurance is sexy. And like working in insurance can really like twist your brain a little bit, and that it's not about just crunching numbers, but you're using AI and technology. And John will tell you the story over by the bar. And the rest of the panelists will be available over by the bar. And then we're gonna reconvene and we're gonna talk a little bit about like what we, I'm gonna get to Michael in 1 second, if Stacy lets him. We're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about retaining talent and how it's important to create that culture. To SB's point, like from the leadership and the top down, it does start at the top, and
Convinced of it.
it does. It's not the only solution, but it definitely is, you know, very forward facing, that if the leadership doesn't endorse this DE&I culture, then the employees won't be there. So let's take a 20-minute break. Even I'm getting the hook.
I just want to let everybody know that the bar closes in 10 minutes. We're eating into bar time, so.
When the MC gets the hook, you know it's overtime. Thank you, guys.
This is an awful time. I am shocked and amazed. Usually it's 3 times better. Hey there, I'm Mark.
I found it
Why the fuck didn't you say something?
I don't know. I was gonna come meet you.
Andy was part of that too. Melvin, trying to do it.
Yeah, Melvin, Noah.
All these people, my God,
They're in New York
what
now.
incredible
They moved to New York.
Yeah.
I stayed here.
Right, they moved.
I stayed in early.
The money. No, I'm not done. They chased the money.
There's 2 of you coming out. We stayed